Okay, Elena.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's workshop on how to master stress for executive success. We are excited to have you here, and we hope you find this session valuable and enriching. We appreciate very much that you're taking time out of your busy agenda to join us. Your commitment to your personal and professional development is commendable. I will start talking about IERG. About IERG, for those who may be new to our community, IERG is an international executive resource group. It's a global network, a very diverse group of multinational, international senior executives. We have a mixture of members from several countries. We have people from North America, Central America, the Caribbean, Latin American, Europe, Asia, everywhere. We have people from all over the world. And we have this good group of international managers with different industry experience. And that result that when we are member of IERG, we are expanding our network. And we are developing contacts and perhaps identifying business opportunities. Why not? We believe in continuous learning, and that's what we host event like this one. I will show you here in Florida, we are over 100 members already. And I will show you some of our activities so you can see the pictures and you can see the diversity, participation, and also the diverse of the topic that we talk about in the DC group and in the Florida group. This one is from the Washington, DC group. And this one was a couple of weeks ago. We have Dr. Nicolas Sinoremas from the University of Miami. And he was talking about artificial intelligence and quantum computing. It was a very compelling meeting, and we learned a lot about the topic. And you can see all the Florida, some of the Florida members there. Then we also have luncheons in the DC area talking about business in Europe, or we have the opportunity to talk to the ambassador, Donna Renack, and she talked about the politics of doing business in this Latin American environment. That was a very, very good meeting also here in Miami. We also have the opportunity to talk to the Consul General of Mexico, very interesting meeting. And we have an agenda that we try to set up meeting every 5 to 6 weeks here in Florida. And Fred Suarez, that is our president, he takes very good care of that. And he's looking for new topics and he's looking to invite people to participate and to give us, information that really can help us with our business, with our journey, with our development. But let me talk about myself a little bit. I have to introduce myself. I am Elena Palacios. I have been in the high-tech industry for over 30 years. I have the pleasure to work with big companies like Xerox, Compaq, HP. Lexmark was my last company. My last assignment in Lexmark was in the Philippines. I was there as a president of the Lexmark Research and Development, and I have a very good experience in representing Latin America and representing Lexmark in the Asia market. My background is in sales operation, supply chain, manufacturing, customer service, service delivery, global business services. For me, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to introduce our facilitator, Cindy Montgenie. Cindy Montgenie, I was running too fast. Cindy Montgenie is coming from a very successful executive career, over 28 years. And she used to work for HP for 20 years. And she was part of different roles in different positions and in different countries. She worked in several countries in Latin America and in US. Cindy, after 20 years in HP, she decided to move on, and she found her own company, Edgy Strategy, with a bold mission: supercharge leadership effectiveness and drive behavior transformation while preventing burnout. So Cindy has a lot of experience in managing stress, helping people and helping corporations to move from, let's say, toxic environment to a successful environment, to a very more friendly environment that allows the people to be more effective and better performers. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce Cindy, and with no further words, Cindy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Elena. So now for tech, we're going to do a switch in terms of sharing screen. So give me a few seconds so I can share my screen.
Cindy, I forgot to tell the people that it will be nice if we use the chat to say, where are we calling from? That will engage us to see where are the people are calling from. I can say, I can start, I got Sonia Aguirre. Sonia can say that she's from Caracas.
Yes, this is a great idea because this is a global organization and this is like the perfect instant transition for how I want this time together. So first, thanks to Fred, thanks to Ruth and the entire leadership at IRG for giving me the opportunity to be with you today. And thanks, as Elena was mentioning, for carving in your time, in your busy agenda to spend 1 hour with me. I'm a proud member of IRG. I've been part of IRG for maybe 3 or more years now. So thanks, Stephen, for inviting me to join this organization. And today, because I know that it's challenging, it's a lunchtime for some of you, and it's challenging to be on Zoom. So the idea, this is a workshop, this is not a lecture. I will be asking you different questions throughout the presentation. Sometimes I will ask you to unmute yourself and to express your view. Sometimes I will ask you to write into the chat box, and Elena and Ruth will be reading for me because I don't have access to the chat. And if you have questions, also you can ask me at any time, even if we will have a formal Q&A session at the end. But the idea is really to be interactive, engaging, and so we could have a good time and learn during this hour together. So how to master stress for executive success? So first, let's raise physical hand or digital hand if you are experiencing stress. So I'm going to be the first one to raise my hand because really at this moment, when I work with my clients, either one-to-one or with corporations and teams, everybody is asked, do more with less, right? One of the big words in corporate America is productivity. So people are leaving the team and we are not replacing them. So of course, stress is rising. And in case you are working for an organization, when you have your dream budget, you have your dream headcount, you have all the tech you want, please write the name of your organization in the chat box, because I believe you are working for really rare organization. So if this is the case, we all want to know when you will have a next job opening, because most of organizations today, resources is limited, time is limited, and the objectives are getting stronger and stronger. And the data is backing it, because I'm seeing like a lot of digital hands. The data is there. This is the latest data for the American Institute of Stress, and 83% of US workers say they suffer from daily work-related stress. And when we look at burnout, this is rising for individual contributors, for managers, for executives. And we all know that stress and burnout come with a cost. So let's look just on a corporate level. So 300 billion only for the US. And I know that we have people from outside the US, but this is also a cost in your country, even if I don't have the data. And the cost is due to low productivity, absenteeism, accidents. Then you have the cost in healthcare, $190 billion. And for the person who is going through burnout, through a high level of stress, our health is priceless. Like there is no amount of money we can put on our health. For this reason, this is a subject that is so important to tackle, to address for our own health and for the performance of our team and our organization. But there is something interesting with stress. It's different for everyone. So maybe the majority of us at this moment, we're experiencing stress, but you could be, and I've seen it countless times, I could be working with a team of executives, and I have two people, same team, same manager, same organization. One will be highly stressed, and the other is like peace and love, all is well, because we all have a different capacity to handle stress. For maybe most of what you are doing, for some people, they could never do what you do because it's too stressful, but you are able to handle it. But since the pressure is increasing in corporate America, even us at our level, handling the stress that we've been handling, we need to be sure that we are not falling into burnout. So for this reason, since stress is different for everyone, one of my messages that I want to leave you today, and that I'm sharing with many executives, it's okay to talk about stress, because we talk about stress. There are like a lot of articles, a lot of data, but this is not enough, because if we want really to decrease the level of stress in our organization, to increase performance, we need targeted intervention, because what is going to work for me might not work for Elena, might not work for Fred or for Ruth. So we need to have really a targeted plan to decrease stress in our organization. So for this reason today, and it was part of the email that you received to attend this session, we're going to understand what is stress, because we talk a lot about stress, but I don't think that everybody knows really what is stress. We're going to identify and discover the symptoms of stress and the core stressors. We are going to understand why it is important to measure stress, and we will discover a plan that we can implement in our organization to really decrease the level of stress. This presentation, it's a 55 minutes presentation, and this is a subset in a larger presentation. For this reason, in this presentation, we are going to get focused only at stress at work, which was part of the email, because of course there is other element outside of work that could impact our level of stress. But today is stress at work, because we have only like 1 hour together. So let's start by understanding what is stress. So one of the first points is stress is different for everyone. For this reason, we need specific data and targeted interventions. But also, there are different types of stress, because when you read all the news and all the articles, it's stress, 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 stress. But really, first, we need to understand the duration of stress, because you will have acute stress and chronic stress. So acute stress is one-time event. A tiger came into your home, into your office, you get stressed, you run, you escape, you're safe, stress is over. It's one-time event. This is acute stress. Chronic stress, this is what we are suffering at this moment in corporate America, because this is something that is coming often, and at some point, it can even become permanent. And this is like really the danger of the chronic stress. But looking at the duration of stress is not enough. We also need to look at the quality of stress. And this is where there are two types of stress, and this is one of the main pillars of the presentation today. You have the eustress, which is the good stress, because generally we are focused on stress is negative, but we need a little of stress in our life, and I'm going to go deeper in the next slide, because the good stress is a stress that gives us the adrenaline, the excitement, the motivation to move on, to work on a project, on a new initiative. This is what you want when you want to have a team that is engaged and mobilized. And the distress, this is what is the negative stress, that we use stress, but the real word is distress. So throughout the presentation, I will go between the good and the bad. And of course, generally, when we talk about stress, we only talk about the negative, and we forget that we need some stress in our life. And remember, like if there is any question, Elena, Ruth, feel free to just let me know and to interrupt me. So this is a stress performance curve. And this curve was identified in 1908, right? So way before our time at this moment. And they already understand the relationship between pressure and performance. So my first question, if you can put in the chat, have you seen the stress performance curve before? So just put yes or no, so I could get an idea. And Ruth and Elena, let me know more or less what are like the answers that are coming up, if people had already seen the curve or not. Because as you can see on the screen, if we have too little stress in our life, our performance is not great. It's like inactive, laid back. And when I do my assessment for company, I'm seeing some people who are like in the green. And this is not great. This is like what is a quiet quitting at this moment because people are not giving the best. So there is an optimal level of stress, which is the yellow one, and this is this adrenaline motivation that we need to keep going. So we produce like some dopamine. But at some point, if it's too much, this is where the performance will start to decline. And at some point, we can reach burnout. So as an executive, what we need to keep in mind is like, I don't want to get rid of stress. I want to get rid of the negative stress, because I need some stress in my life, because if I'm too laid back, I'm not going really to produce what I need to produce. So Elena, what was like the response for the stress performance group? Yes, no?
We got 4 no and 5 yes.
Okay, so
and I said that I was always in exhaustion, too much stress.
Good. So, because this is it, like the good stress, this is what you need for your team to deliver creativity, innovation, transformation. At this moment, any organization, even if you are like a solopreneur, you need to transform, you need to innovate. And so you need to operate in the optimal level of stress. And of course, no one wants to go with a bad stress, because this is where you're going to get burnout, disengagement, and loss of productivity. So what is happening at this moment? And again, I will ask you to share your opinion in the chat. When I look at corporate America at this moment, some companies are aware of to decrease stress and to create a better environment for their employees. So at this moment in the chat, could you mention if you are seeing your company taking action to decrease stress? So again, yes, no, so we could get an idea of if you are seeing some initiatives from your organization to decrease stress. And soon I will ask a question when you need to open. Yes, this is good. But what I think this is happening is might be super generic. So, which is great, because it's going to be part of the 3 of the plan that I'm going to share with you, because it might be in training, which is great, which is part of what I'm doing. For this reason, I told you, like, this is 1 hour of a bigger program. Mindfulness, wellness, like a lot of tools that are great. But my question, do you have KPIs regarding stress in your organization? So could you also answer in the chat, and especially those of you who mentioned that your organization is taking actions to decrease stress, do you know if they have KPIs? So yes or no, and you put yes, no, KPI. And if they have KPIs about stress, could you mention what are the KPIs that your organization is doing regarding stress? And I will wait a bit.
I think we are getting a lot of no KPIs at all. Not that I am aware of. No KPIs at all. So they are thinking so.
No? Okay. No. So you started to see why this is an issue, because we saw that stress is different for everybody. And now we have generic strategy, which are great and noble, and you will see that part of the plan. But if we don't have a KPI, if it's not targeted, this is not going to be efficient. So now I will ask you a question, and I will ask you to unmute yourself, and I will ask you to start working the brain.
Yeah, Cindy,
On the right, yes?
we got a question, but I think that you will answer this
Yes.
later. That is, what is a good way to measure stress?
Yes, it's part of the presentation, so this one I will answer a bit later. But great question. Look at the article that I'm sharing on the screen. So this is an article March this year, the CEO of Ozempic. As you know, like Ozempic is a new darling girl, the new girl on the block, like everybody is using Ozempic to lose weight. So they did, I don't think they use really a precise measurement for stress. When I read the article, my understanding, they went with the executive team and they asked if there was stress or not. And it came out that 14% of the executive say there was stress. So the CEO came back saying, 14% of my team is stressed. This is too much. I will go with a target of 10%. So this is quite noble because, of course, I imagine like it's thinking about the negative stress. But why do you think, and this is great because it's putting a KPI, right? For this reason, I was asking for KPI. But why this is not the right KPI? Oh, this is a good KPI, but it is not good enough. So please feel free to unmute yourself. Think about the performance curve, what I've been talking about, the good and the bad stress, and let me know, why do you think this is not a good enough KPI? And you can unmute yourself.
You need more
No one is,
you
yes?
need more specific parameters to measure this. These metrics are way too broad, and it's too subjective, and there are too many variables that can enter this, and there's no sort of control of the study.
Yes, but what type of metrics, like without thinking of how to do it, but what kind of metrics would you do, Stephen? And thanks, Stephen, oh, I share the answer. Stephen is the one who invited me to join IRG, so super grateful. What type of metrics would you do, Stephen?
I don't
or
know.
Someone else?
I don't know. I think maybe someone like Walter Baker, who's in this business, is probably somebody who could identify some metrics better than I could for something like.
But I will give the answer. So if we look at the, and thanks a lot, Stephen, for sharing your thoughts, and for being the brave one of sharing your thoughts. If you look at the performance curve, and there is a good and a bad stress, so it's noble to understand that you don't want to have your team with a high level of stress. But what happens if you have 90% of your organization in the green with low stress? This is as bad as having a lot of your people in high stress, because the thing is not high stress. We want to think, what is the optimal level of stress in my organization? So for this reason, the right KPI that every organization and every executive should ask is, I am myself first at the tipping point of the stress in the stress performance curve, and how is each of my teammates? This should be, so it's not so much how many people are stressed, it's where are they in the stress? Because, and you will see, I will show you later, I wrote an article about the low stress tax liability, because if everybody is in the green, you have also a big issue as if everybody is on the red. And a second question that you could not have guessed with a stress performance curve, I'm going to share it later, is what are the core stressors? Because again, I share, we could be two people in the team, same organization, same boss, and one can be stressed and the other one cannot be stressed. So what is really fueling our stress? So those are part of the type of KPIs that as executives nowadays, we should ask ourselves. If you have any comment, any question, please feel free to ask. So remember the stress performance curve was discovered in 1908. And this tool, which is, to my knowledge, the only tool that can measure stress, was created in 2016. So I'm not the creator. This is one of my partners who are like a leading company in assessment, TTI. and they created the stress quotient. So this is the only tool that is able to measure the level of stress of people and organization. So the stress quotient go from 0 to 100, okay? So 0 is no stress, and the severe stress is 100. Quickly in the chat, no need to unmute yourself. Could you put some number? What do you think is zero, no stress, limited stress, elevated stress, significant? Like just put some number just to play. I told you, like it's going to be engaging because I know it's challenging to be through Zoom. So I want your brain to think. What do you think is no stress? Is 0 to 10 to 20 to 40 to 50? Limited stress. What do you think? Do you have some guess, Elena?
I see no stress, 0 to 2.
0 to 2, and after?
No.
More? No? I will
0 to
share.
20, 0 to 20. Limited stress, 2 to 5.
Okay. So I will show you. No stress is 0 to 20. Limited stress is 21 to 40. And the optimum, so 40 is around the 40, right? Because 60 starting like to be too much. And significant stress is 61 to 80. And like burnout is like 81 to 100. So really, so one of my article, I was sharing like below 40, you can demand more to your team because really it's like no stress or limited stress. So for this reason, we really need to renew our mind around what is stress, because you need this optimal level of stress, because again, without stress, without adrenaline, you're not going to deliver your best. But of course, you don't want to be on the orange or red. So starting like 41, this is really when stress starts to be an issue. Any comment, any reflection, if you want to put any comment in the chat regarding the stress quotient, and later on, we are going to go deeper on this tool. So why does this matter? Because we all know the power of metrics. So when we are talking about something as important as stress and the impact in our well-being, in our health, in our productivity, the organization and the executives who have access to this information will be more effective in increasing morale, increasing performance, productivity, and will be able to differentiate themselves from their competitors. So for this reason, this data is so critical, and I'm so passionate about empowering executives to use those type of tools. So now let's look at the signs of stress. Because as I just shared, and I'm going to repeat because we need to repeat a message, stress in a small amount is okay. It's not an issue. We need it because this is what is going to motivate us and to give us the strength and the boost to deliver a great performance. The issue is excessive stress, because this is crippling. And what is happening, for this reason, there are like a lot of articles, stress is a silent killer of productivity. Because I don't know if you had some friends, or maybe if you had experienced burnout, but you don't wake up one day and burn out. This has been a process. When something, you start showing some sign of stress, you didn't pay attention, and it increased, and one day, really, you can no longer function, and you are in burnout. So for this reason, it's so important to understand what are those signs, because again, what might be my sign might not be yours. So we can catch those before reaching the point of excessive stress.
Cindy,
So that
we have a question.
Yes.
We have
Elena?
a question here.
Yes.
Good stress stops being good at one number. The good stress. At what number?
So it's between 41 and 60. So it's generally in the range of the 40, it's okay. And when we start like going, because like 60 is like between elevated and significant. So this is like in the yellow, and I would say around like the range of 40. Like when I start like to see 50 with my clients, like even 40, we need to start going. But you will see in the second part of the presentation, like the overall number is important. But what matters is your core stressor, because I will be sharing And for this reason, stress is a silent killer, because overall, you could be at 41 and it's okay. But if you have a core stressor that is at 80, this could totally wreck your performance. So give me a bit more time, and I will go deeper. So I will say any core stressor at 60, above 60 is bad, but sometimes you have some signal around 40, it's a good way to start taking action. So the sign of stress, why we need, because for what I was mentioning, stress starts with little number, and then it goes, it increases, and one day burnout because we didn't pay attention. So there are 4 signs of stress. If you want also in the chat, put your guess, what could be those 4 signs of stress? Any guess, Elena?
No, so far.
No? Okay, so I will give you the answer. So it's physical. One of the signs of stress, and for example, this is my sign of stress.
We got one here. Excessive sickness. People that get sick very often.
Yeah. So this is the physical. So
people cannot sleep. People cannot sleep.
So sleep is another one. Is going to be behavioral.
Absenteeism. People, they don't show up to work.
Yeah.
Quick to anger.
Those are great answers. So we could put all of those in categories. So one category is physical. Is when you start seeing like your level of energy is not the same. You start having pains and illnesses. And for example, it was my case. So I never, by the grace of God, experienced burnout, but I did once through some high level of stress. And it was 8 years ago, I was still in corporate, and I started having a pain in my shoulder, my right shoulder. I didn't pay attention, okay? And the pain was growing and growing and growing, and I was not taking any action. And there was one day, I could no longer raise my arm, like, could not do it. It was too painful, I could not do it. So I ended up to a chiropractor. The diagnosis was frozen shoulder. I don't know if you have experiences, and I hope you will never experience it. Because it took me 2 or 3 months going 2 or 3 times a week to the chiropractor. The first sessions, I was literally yelling. I live in Miami, but I believe people will listen to me in New York. How strong was my cry. I was like in tears to recover the mobility of my shoulder. So now I can raise my shoulder, but this was 8 years ago and never came back. But what is really amazing is each time my stress is rising, it's the same shoulder. So now I know, because I don't want to be back in the chiropractor crying and yelling, but this is my sign. And I have 2 or 3 other signs in my physical body that when I see them, okay, I need to go down because these things could increase and become dangerous. But for some people, it's not physical. For some people, it's cognitive. They're starting having like some concentration issue, memory, poor judgment. For others, it's emotional, like those people who are super moody and feeling overwhelmed. This could be a sign. And behavioral, for those of you who talk about like eating, sleeping disorder, nervous habits, procrastination. So, and I will be sharing with you documents if you don't know your signs, so you could identify. But what is happening is at some point, when stress is too huge, we're going to experience the four signs, right? Because our body will be weak, our mind, our emotion will be all over the place. But generally when it starts, and this is when it starts that we need to catch the sign of stress, is one of those 4. So when we understand that those are the 4 signs of stress, we could understand why I was talking about the $300 billion impact in lost productivity, the $190 billion in healthcare costs for the US. Because if you are sick, you are going to start not going to work. Your commitment will decrease. You will start making mistakes because your mind is not like working properly and you are tired. You start going to leave, and maybe more people are going to leave the department of the organization. Your productivity will decrease. If you work with customer activation, you are not going to deliver the best experience. You might, especially for those who express it through their emotion, if you are not really nice to be around, you might create a bad atmosphere in the organization. And this is going to create bad publicity for the whole organization or your team department. So this is why stress is so important to tackle, because the impact is real. So now that we understand the sign of stress, we need to understand what fuels stress. And again, I'm focusing only stress at work. We're not talking about personal life, which is obviously also important. And because again, two people, same department, one can be stressed and the other one cannot be. So when we think about stress, we generally think workload. And especially nowadays, when organizations do more with less, two people had left the team, but we're not going to replace them. So definitely, workload demand is a core stressors. But my title says 7 core stressors. So can you guess what are beyond demand? What are the other core stressors that could fuel your level of stress? If you could put it into chat, please.
No.
Elena, do we have some answers? No?
Comment.
Okay, so
Lack of
first,
autonomy. I got uncertainty, disorganization, lack of autonomy, uncertainty.
awesome, good. And I didn't mention, like, the idea you answer to me without doing ChatGPT, no Google, nothing, like only for your own mind. But those are good ones.
Unclear objectives.
Yes. So those are great ones. So, and they're part of the cost research, great answers. So one is workload. And for each of those, I'm going to go deeper. But the overall section is workload demand, is when there is a mismatch between the effort that we are putting and the reward. This is going to increase our level of stress. The control, as you were mentioning, because if you are tasked to lead a project, but you don't have the resources or the autonomy, you are going to feel stress.
There is a key one here. That is workforce reduction. You have to do more with less.
Yeah, so workload. Organizational change. We all know change brings stress, but I will show you why. And manager. I don't agree when people say people don't leave organization, they leave manager. Because as you can see, there is like many reasons why someone could leave, but definitely manager is a big one. Once I was hired by a HR team because half of the department was threatening to quit because of the manager. He was a VP. And thankfully, we worked together. He was able to turn around because he was not a bad person, just he had a lot of blind spots that we work around. But manager is, of course, a big source of stress. Social support, toxicity. If you are in a toxic environment, you might love your job, but if the environment is wrong, your level of stress will increase. And as someone mentioned, job security, okay? So now let's go deeper into each of those core stressors. So for the demand, one is the excessive workload. As someone was mentioning, people are leaving, they're not being replaced, your workload is increasing and your level of stress too. But it's not only workload. I've met many people who are like really happy with their workload because sometimes you could have a lot of work, but if you love what you do, you don't care. But the issue is they're not liking what they're doing because there is a mismatch between their strengths, what the value that they could bring to the organization and the job they are doing. And this is going to fuel your level of stress. And I'm going to share some examples. When we think about the disconnect between the level of effort that we are putting and the reward, it's of course compensation, because if we're not happy with our pay, this is going to fuel our stress because we all have bills to pay. But also sometimes it's not the compensation, because I like a lot of companies who have like great benefits, but you are not being recognized. So sometimes it could be like the recognition that is fueling your level of stress, lack of recognition. Control stressors, we talk about it. you don't have the autonomy. You are not being involved for the major decision. You're not being heard. You're not getting the support. Maybe you are asked to lead a project, but no one else cares about the project in the rest of the organization, especially if you work with a big multinational. So this is going to increase your level of stress because you don't know how you are going to deliver the outcomes of your project. Change. So this one, I like it a lot because we all know that change fuels stress. And but what is fueling stress? It could be one of those three, or it could be the three. Maybe the reason behind the change is not clear. There is a lack of transparency, or maybe there is a poor communication. And I will share an example. Once I worked with an organization, so they really care about stress. And they were doing a lot of things to decrease the level of stress. They were even paying for their employee paid meditation apps. But you could tell people were stressed. So for this reason, they wanted to implement the stress quotient, and I'm going to share more about the stress quotient. And it turns out, when we get the result, that the issue was not workload or social support, because they were really a great organization. They were going through a lot of changes, like many organizations, and the communication was not right. And so you could meditate 24 hours, and I'm totally okay with meditation. It's great, and it's part of the plan that I'm going to share. But if you're going to meditate 10 hours a day, but you're not going to tackle the root cause of the stress, your stress is not going to decrease. So for this reason, we need to have the right strategy and to then cope with stress. Manager, as I told you, I worked with this executive VP, like half of his team was about to leave because he was a micromanager, a lot of pressure, and a lot of challenges on his team. When we went through all those blind spots, he was able to reverse because he was open to coaching, training, and feedback. But this could be a big issue for some organization if you don't have the right, a great manager leading the team. Social support, if there is a lot of conflicts, if lack of cooperation, if lack of guidance, those are the toxic environments, people will not flourish, they might leave, or if they stay, they're going to suffer and not really deliver the best. And the last one you mentioned is job security. But job security could be, and I will be sharing an example, someone working with a large organization. So the organization is going to be there, but you might be working within a business unit that is not, is this one? I will put both. You might be working within a business unit that there is not a clear future because this is a small business unit. So if your career path is not clear, even if the overall organization is strong, you might feel insecure. And there is a case when you know the financial of the organization are not so great, and this also might fuel your stress. So quickly, the 7 core stressors: demand, the balance between efforts and reward, control, organizational change, manager, social support, and job security. So now the question that was asked, how can we diagnose this, right? Because we need to understand our core stressor and we need to understand our symptoms. So at the end of the presentation, in 10 minutes, we are going to share with you a checklist. This is a handout where you, through your personal observation and reflection, you will be able to map out your symptoms and stressors. So wait for 10 minutes and Ruth is going to put it in the chat box. But honestly, this is not going to be enough. So for this reason, a tool like the stress quotient that I share with the index, this is science-backed, and you could get precise data. So I will give you a snapshot, but also do not worry, you will have, all of you, the opportunity to experience the stress quotient. So the stress quotient is great because you could have a personal view of what is happening with you. And if you are leading one team or if you are leading several teams, you could have team view. What is important is confidential. So people in the organization will never get access to your data So you will get your personal report because it's not run by your organization, it's run by a company like myself, where you will get your personal report, a 15-page report, where you will get everything, your symptoms, your stressors, with all the data that will create self-awareness. And we have two different questionnaires. If you are a manager or if you are an individual contributor, because of course the level of stress is different. And if you are leading a department or several departments, we could create for you reports to compare, for example, the sales team, the marketing team, maybe the team in Mexico and the team in Argentina, or the team in California and the team in New York, like different view to understand how stress is affecting your organization. And of course, you will get the root cause of stress. For example, this company, that it was like poor communication. It was not workload. So for this reason, this is really a powerful tool. And this is an example for one person, because what is great with the stress quotient, you could identify the good stress and the bad stress. So someone was mentioning, at what point can we know? So at this moment, this figure, stress was not really high, but there was like 3 core stressors that are starting like to increase. So this gives you like a bit like with my shoulder, when I starting seeing some pain, I know like I need to make some adjustment. So this is the power to make adjustments before you go into high level of stress. I'm just looking at the time. So now another example, this another client, when she reached out to me, she was referred, she was like cognitive all over the place, overwhelmed, emotion, she could not think really what she wanted. We spent 1 hour figuring out why she wanted coaching, because she was so overwhelmed. When we find out what she wanted, it's because she was under a lot of stress. She was a VP, a major organization, but also she was a mom, she was a wife, and her kids were young. So she was considering quitting to become a stay-at-home mom. And there is nothing wrong to do it. Like, you need to do what works for you. But she still had a kind of sound mind, and she wanted to be sure this was the right decision to make, because it was a big decision after 20 years in a major organization to say, hey, I'm leaving and I'm becoming a stay-at-home mom. So we did many things, but one of the things to do was to take the stress quotient. And I'm not sharing our information, so you cannot know who is she, but you could see the bottom line was 42. So when she gets a report, she was like 42, but this is not a lot of stress, like according to the stress quotient. I said, yeah, this is not a lot of stress. But look here, she had a 85, a 50, a 67 somewhere. So she had like those 3 major core stressors that were like really, really high. And because of those 3, she thought that she was like overstressed with everything. But it was not, it was like 3 specific pain points. So what we did, we worked on those specific pain points. We were able to decrease her level of stress. And after 6 months of engagement, she reached the conclusion that she didn't need to become a stay-at-home mom, because really she was not wired for this. And so now she makes some change. She's spending more time with her family, but she didn't quit. And but what happened, like we realized she needs to look for another job within this organization. So this is the power of having the data, because I know 2 other women, I didn't have the opportunity to work with them. They are like CEOs, one, because again, burnout, she's married with children. 4 years ago, she quit to spend more time with her family. 4 years later, the burnout is over, but she's still searching herself. What is going to be her next step professionally, because she wants to keep working. Yeah, another one, it's been 1 year, she's not married, no kids, and she quit because of burnout, but 1 year later, she's still looking for what to do. So for me, this is like the power of having the data, because I've met men and women who had made drastic career changes because they think they're stressed, and it might be one pain point, and you don't need like to really quit everything without having a solution.
Yeah,
Now
we have a question here.
Yes.
Has resistance to stress been similar in the past, or is now worsening due to social media?
Social media is definitely something, a factor that we tackle when we do like the bigger program. Definitely, this is something that is increasing the stress. Yeah, definitely. And it's been proven. Department, but since we're doing like stress at work, for this reason, I'm not included it, but when I do the bigger program, I talk about social media. So this is the department. So it's another case. They reach out because they thought it was workload, and it happened, it was change and social support. So I'm going a bit faster because I realize that we have like 5 minutes and I want to get more time for questions. In the stress report, you will get with the stress quotient also the level of stress by stress symptoms. And what are the benefits when you measure stress? You will avoid what I call the low stress tax, to be sure that your team are not in the green, to relax. You will really understand the root cause. So it's not workload, it could be communication, it could be social support. You will improve the well-being of your employee, team performance, employee engagement. You are going to reduce turnover. You will maybe find out that you think that this thing was solved and was not, because you have precise data. So this is the power of having really the precise data. So what is the solution? Simple, no rocket science. Diagnose stress and the symptoms and the cause stressor. Create the plan and execute the plan. But the key is what type of plan. So it's what I call a 3D plan. Once you run the stress quotient and you have all the pain points, this is where you could really address each of them with a specific plan. And then you could do what many organizations are doing, and it's part also what I do with organization, provide the training to cope with stress. So the stress management, the mindfulness, the resilience, the conflict management, time management, assertiveness, emotional intelligence, and much more. And for those of your employees who are already a high level of stress, this is when you can offer counseling, therapy, and maybe give them the opportunity to take a break and come back. So let's see if I deliver on my promises. We looked at what is stress, the good, the bad, the duration, the quality, the stress performance curve, the 4 signs of stress: physical, cognitive, emotional, behavioral, the 7 core stressors, why it matters, and the plan. So I'm going super fast because I know that I have 5 minutes. And the whole point is to share that if we have the data, this is where we can be more effective to really increase performance, decrease the impact of stress, and really show that we care to our employee. And so now, Ruth, please, if you can download the handout in the chat, and this is where you will have a checklist where you could do it by yourself without running the stress quotient. But also at the last page of the handout, you could experiment the stress quotient. Okay, there are 2 links in the stress quotient. If you are leading a team, or if you are an individual contributor. If you are a solopreneur, there is no link for you, because as you can see, you are the one deciding everything, right? You are deciding your salary, you are deciding the social support. So really, what you could do is use a checklist, but you don't need a stress quotient because you are the only person that can change things in your company. There is a catch, because I know you are all busy. This link is going to be valid until Monday, end of day. Okay, so it's going to be like Cinderella at midnight. The link disappears. So please, according to where you work, experiment the stress quotient. It's quite self-explanatory, the report, but if you need a debrief, you could also reach out to me, and happy to chat with you.
Yeah, Cindy, we have
Yes.
a couple of questions here. Will this presentation be shared?
Ruth is recording the presentation, and the presentation will be in the website, right, Ruth?
Yes, on the members portion of the website. That's correct. So if you're a member, you will be able to access the archive.
Okay. And another question here is, how do you tackle a bad boss, for example?
So bad boss, so this is great, because something that I didn't mention here, when we do the stress quotient is anonymous, right? So you could really, for this reason, it's powerful, because you could really mention if your boss is your stressor. And if I work with an organization, when I present the team, all the names are hidden. So let's say it's a team of 10 people. I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 numbers, but I will have no name. And I can show you have 10 people, and 5 out of 10 are saying that manager is the cost racers. And this is how we work. For example, as I told you, I work with this manager because half of the team was about to quit because of him. And so this is a data that is going to help you. If you are doing by yourself, so it's not an engagement when the whole organization is going to map out, but you are doing one-to-one coaching and manager is an issue. So we will need to understand, okay, what is going on with the manager and to create like a tailor plan. But there is a solution to deal with this.
Yeah, so thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much for this good information. Thank you, Cindy. Great presentation. Very well, very useful. And thank you, Cindy. I appreciate the valuable information you shared with us.
Thank you very much. And if you please, let's contact if at some point you have some question. Remember to experience the stress quotient. Let's connect by social media and LinkedIn. And thanks a lot for taking the time to spend your lunchtime with us. And thank you and merci. I didn't mention it, but I believe everybody figured out that I'm French by the accent. So thank you very much.
Once again, thank you everybody for being here. Let's make the most of this session to take away valuable insight and improve our workplace well-being. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cindy. It was a great presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.